All right, let's talk about cloth in Unreal Engine 5.6. You know, getting fabric to look and feel right on a character, especially a metahuman, can be well, it's a huge challenge, right? It can make or break your character. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and demystify the whole thing, from the absolute basics all the way to the newest, coolest tools out there.
And really, this is why it matters so much. Just look at the difference here. On the left, you've got that stiff, video gamey look that just feels wrong. It completely shatters the immersion. But on the right, that's what we're aiming for. It's fluid, it's believable, it makes the character feel like they're actually there. I mean, the difference is just night and day. And that's the gap between a character that's just good and one that's truly incredible.
So to get that amazing result on the right, we've got to start with the basics. We need to get our heads around the fundamentals. You know, what actually makes digital fabric behave the way it does?
So what is cloth simulation, really? Well, at its core, it's pretty much what it says on the tin. We're taking our 3D model, the mesh, and we're telling the computer, hey, treat this thing like a real piece of fabric. That means applying physics to it. You know, stuff like gravity pulling it down, wind blowing it around, and, super important, making sure it doesn't just pass straight through the character's body. Okay, so that's the big idea. But how does the engine actually do that? What are the knobs we can turn, the levers we can pull as artists to get the exact look and feel we want for our digital fabric? Let's break down the key components.
This is basically our toolkit. First, you've got the simulation engine. That's the brain doing all the heavy physics lifting. Then there's weight painting. This is super important. It's how we tell the cloth which part should be stuck to the body like a belt and which part should be free to flow. Collision, well, that's obvious. It stops the cloth from going through the character. Subdivision adds more geometry on the fly for those nice smooth wrinkles. And finally, constraints and damping. That's how we control things like how stretchy or stiff the fabric is. Get all these right and you're in complete control. Okay, so with all those tools in our belts, pretty much every single approach to cloth simulation boils down to one big choice. One of two main philosophies. The question is, do you need your cloth to simulate live and real time, or are you going to pre-calculate everything for the absolute best quality? Let's dive into both.
Let's start with real-time. And when you're talking real-time in Unreal Engine, you're talking about Chaos Cloth. This is Unreal's own built-in physics engine, and it's specifically designed to handle simulations that are happening right now, reacting instantly to whatever the character or the world is doing.
The workflow for Chaos is actually pretty straightforward, and the best part is, you do almost all of it right inside of Unreal. You just import your clothing mesh, use the engine's tools to paint on those weights we talked about, tweak a few settings to define the fabric, and that's it. You hit play and see it all happen live.
So when do you actually reach for Chaos Cloth? Well, the answer is simple. When you need things to be interactive. Think about it. If your player is running and jumping around, or if there's an explosion, you absolutely want their coat to react to that in real time. That's the magic of Chaos. Plus, it's a much lighter setup because you're not dealing with huge, pre-baked animation files.
But what if you don't need all that real-time reaction? What if your one and only goal is to get the most beautiful, highest fidelity cloth possible for, say, a cinematic? Well, that's where the other philosophy comes into play. We're talking about baking the simulation with something called an Alembic cache.
So how does this work? Basically, you do all of the hard work outside of Unreal in a specialized tool like Marvelous Designer, Blender, or Houdini. You get the simulation looking absolutely perfect in there. Then you export it as an Alembic file. You can think of this file as a super detailed recording of the animation, capturing where every single vertex is on every single frame. Once you bring that into Unreal, it's not simulating anything anymore. It's just playing back that perfect pre-recorded animation.
The time to use Alembic is when you need absolute perfection and consistency. It's for those cinematic shots where the result has to be exactly the same every single time you hit play. And here's the big kicker. Since all the calculations are already done, it costs basically nothing in terms of performance when you're running it in Engine. The trade-off? It's set in stone. It's a recording, so it can't react to anything unexpected. It just plays its part perfectly.
Okay, so those two methods are super powerful, right? But let's be honest, they can also be a ton of work, a lot of tedious manual setup. The good news is, new tools are popping up that help us automate the really boring stuff. It's all about working smarter, so we can spend more time being artists and less time clicking buttons.
And I bet anyone who's ever worked as a character artist is nodding along right now. Oh man, manually painting cloth weights for every single shirt. It is just so tedious.
It's one of those jobs that can absolutely grind a production to a halt.
And this is where something like MetaTailor just swoops in to save the day. It's built to tackle exactly this problem. You give it a piece of clothing and boom, it automatically rigs it to your MetaHuman, it generates all of those cloth weights for you, and it even sets up the basic chaos cloth file. The whole thing happens in just a couple of clicks. It's amazing.
So, when should you use MetaTailor? It's a no-brainer if you're bringing in clothes from somewhere like Marvelous Designer or Blender, and you just want to get them working in Unreal as fast as possible. If you want to completely skip that whole manual painting process, this is for you, especially if you're dealing with a ton of different outfits. It's a lifesaver.
Okay, but automation is really just the beginning. There's a brand new feature in Unreal Engine 5.6 that is a total game changer for how we think about character clothing. We're talking about a move towards a true one-size-fits-all future. This new system is called Parametric clothing, and the idea behind it is, honestly, it's revolutionary. Imagine this. Instead of making a small, medium, and large version of a shirt, you just make one smart shirt. And that one single asset knows how to automatically resize, re-rig, and just fit perfectly on any metahuman body type you throw it on. Now, this is a massive deal for any project that has character customization. If you're making a game where players can create their own characters and change their body shapes, this system is a dream come true. It means your entire wardrobe just works automatically. It's not just a time saver, it's really about future-proofing your whole character pipeline.
And hey, one more quick shout out to another tool that speeds things up, the Marvelous Designer LiveLink. This is so cool. It lets you tweak a garment in Marvelous Designer and see those changes update live right inside Unreal. For quick prototyping and getting the fit just right, it's incredible. No more exporting and re-importing a million times.
Phew, okay, we have covered a lot of ground here. We've talked real-time with Chaos, baked fidelity with Alembic, automation with MetaTailor, and the future with parametric clothing. So, the big question is, how do you actually choose the right workflow for your project? Let's break it all down and make that decision a little easier.
This little chart here really lays it all out. It's pretty simple, right? If you're making a game and need that moment-to-moment interactivity, Chaos Cloth is your best friend. If you're doing a cinematic and need it to look absolutely perfect, Alembic is the undisputed king. Need to get Chaos set up fast without the headache? That's MetaTailor. And if you're building a huge system with tons of character customization, you should definitely be looking at the new Parametric clothing system. At the end of the day, it all comes down to what you're trying to build.
All right, before we wrap up, here are a few pro tips that apply no matter what workflow you pick. First, and this is a big one, please test your cloth with actual animations, not just in a T-pose. It might look great standing still, but fall apart the second the character moves. For real-time stuff, keep your mesh resolution reasonable. Don't go crazy. And really, take the time to master your weight painting, especially pinning. That is the secret sauce to getting your fabric to flow just right.
And that kind of brings us to a final, bigger question. As all this amazing tech gets better and better at automating the technical grunt work, the tedious fitting and rigging, it frees up a ton of time for artists. So what happens then? Where does all that creative energy go? What kind of insane new detail and expression are we going to see in our characters now that some of these huge technical hurdles are starting to disappear? It's a pretty exciting thing to think about.